Hello again, and today what we wanted to answer was a question that often comes up, which is what does passive income from websites really mean? And I think that's a really good question because I think a lot of people, when they hear the word passive income, they immediately jump to the idea of sitting on a beach, doing absolutely zero, nothing for the rest of their lives and having money come in. It's kind of like the lottery win, and then you never have to think about money again. And
money
I understand,
just turns up in your cash account, and you don't have to do anything for it.
Yeah, and you don't have to manage it, and you don't have to worry about money ever again. And I understand that because we've actually come from a background, we haven't come from wealthy backgrounds. We've felt the pinch of money. We've watched our parents work really hard. So I think a lot of us, that is our ultimate goal. We think passive income, never have to worry about managing money or any business or anything again.
Sitting on the beach, occasionally looking at your phone and your bank account and going, oh, there's another $1 million, thanks.
Woohoo! And we don't want to burst the bubble, but when we're talking about passive income, what we mean is the difference between income that you have to work for and you have to show up for. So you think about if you're working in a job right now, or maybe you're self-employed, like a professional, like an accountant, or even a lawyer, or a chiropractor, or anyone who swaps their time for money. It means that your income, if you don't show up that day, your income stops because you haven't seen a client or a customer, or you haven't actually presented yourself at the office that day. And so what's happening is you're intrinsically connected to time is money. And
you've got to turn up somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of us, I'm sure, I notice a lot of our community have certainly read, the classics like Robert Kiyosaki talks a lot about this, and he talks about becoming an investor. We're talking about making true passive income where you're not having to turn up every day to create that income.
And I think it's making the jump between that linear thinking. So most of us start out, and when we watch our parents work really hard, most of us watch them say, well, if I want to make more money, I've got to get more hours.
Yep.
I either have to get paid more per hour, or I've got to work more hours. And both of those strategies mean that if you're going to get paid more per hour, usually that involves either some higher level qualification. So you've got to outlay money and time to do a lot of that qualification. It means you have to ask for more, which a lot of people are quite uncomfortable doing, going to work and saying, hey, you should be paying me more. Most people are uncomfortable doing that. Or you have to work more jobs or more time. And unfortunately, time is something that we all have unlimited supply of.
Well, I would also suggest in this day and age, I think that there's only a limited supply of jobs as well. We've noticed amongst our community, because we work with a lot of, let's just say slightly older people in there. I'm joking. We're not all in our 20s.
Let's say 30 plus, 40 plus.
In our 30 plus or 40 plus age group. What we've noticed with those of us in our community who have traditional jobs, a lot of them are saying, "Wow, we can't rely on it." So there's not, and quite a number of them sadly have lost jobs as well. So we need to be careful of that as well.
Especially once I notice as you reach 50, so a lot of our students have said, "I can't get a job again." Yep. So anyway, so we've got that link, and so we've got that very linear graph of 1 unit of time equals 1 unit of money. And that's a very difficult graph because obviously as you want more money, you have to invest more time. So when we talk about passive income, what we're talking about is breaking that link, is actually changing over to what's called an exponential graph. Maybe I can overlay one here, where the graph initially, and this is the problem, most people aren't willing to go through the initial bit because passive income does require work, especially up front. It requires you to learn some stuff, but it also requires you to take some action and put some stuff in place that will pay off in the long term. So for a lot of the time, the initial journey to creating passive income is that flat bit of the graph. It's traveling along there, and that's the bit that people really don't like.
because it feels like each day you turn up to do something, and we teach this, like turn up, be consistent. It doesn't have to be hard, but just be consistent, and you'll get there, and your graph goes up
and it
like
feels
that.
like it's not going anywhere for a long time.
Yeah,
That one,
and that was
you're
certainly our
used to
journey, wasn't it?
you're used to the 1 unit of time equals 1 unit of money, and
You
you're
get
putting in
nothing.
all this time, and the money's staying flat, and you're going, hang on, this is not happy.
But then all of a sudden it gets really exciting, and suddenly it's like I remember one of our students saying to us, wow, you kind of wake up and you suddenly realize, you look at your bank account and you go, this will come together, and now I'm making serious money here. I'm quitting my job today. And it just suddenly creeps up, but then the graph starts to kick up.
Yes,
and as Liz said, what we've noticed is, and we know what it's like, that it's that bit along the bottom that's the hard bit. You've got to stay motivated. You've got to live the dream and all that sort of stuff. But in that part, when we're talking about passive websites, we are doing work. We want to make that really clear, and that was certainly our journey. You do have to do stuff. Now, the cool thing for us is we love what we do online. It's awesome. It's so much fun. It's way better than turning up at a job. You do it in your own hours. We control our hours. But one of the other things that we've noticed in our community as well, especially with total beginners to this space, because they're so thinking, like you said, linearly. It's so cute. When I'm on the phone to them, I've kind of said, hang on a minute, this website, you do realize you can walk away from it for the next couple of weeks. It's not like it's not like your job.
You don't have to show up every day.
You don't have to be there at 9 o'clock or at 5 o'clock or whatever. You can work on this a little bit in the evenings. You can actually, when you buy, there's certain sites, you can literally park for 6 months or 12 months.
Yeah.
It's not the ideal strategy, but what we're saying is when it comes to being passive, it's that idea. Remember, we had a great mentor point this out to us. I love the saying, done once, done forever.
Yeah.
So it's like writing a book. Done once, done forever. So you do it once, there's a heap of work. Sometimes there's a heap of work, and we admit that. Some renovations we do on websites, we got to work hard, not work hard, work consistently and do a big block of work on it, and it might take a couple of weeks. But then it's done once, done forever, in essence. And then we just might do a bit of maintenance over the year or over the years. And
actually, Matt, you're working on a couple at the moment.
I'm doing two at the moment.
There's one particularly, it's such a good website. So it's been making $2,000 a month for 3 years. I don't think, we've barely looked at it.
I literally just had to sort out off Liz. Can you help me with the logins and stuff? Can you transfer them all over? We had to hunt around and try and find them.
And Matt's about to do probably, would you say, a week's worth of work? You're going to do a reno, you're probably going to do, over the week, you're going to...
Yeah, so if we look at, like, everyone listening here, the hours, you guys all measure life in hours. If we had to look at the hours, to me, I don't really notice it because I just get up really early in the morning. Like, I'm up at 5 in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, and I'll do a bit on it, and I love it. But yeah, if I had to tally it up, realistically, I guess probably I'll put 40 joyous hours of SEO work into it, and I'm just tidying up the website. So all I'm doing is fixing up the pages, making sure that it ranks better in Google, and I'm adding new content. In essence, that's what I'm doing, and that will take me about 40 hours, I reckon. But I'm going to do that part-time. Now, the cool thing is, this is the ultimate passive. This is exactly what we're talking in terms of a passive website, because once I've done that, I probably won't, other than basic maintenance, I won't need to touch that for another 3 years.
No. Well, our tech guy will look after it. He'll make sure that there's nothing wrong. He'll troubleshoot anything else. But basically,
that site makes
when you think about that,
$500 a week.
So that's
profit.
$26,000 a year, that website. Now, that might not sound like a lot of money, but if you look at the hourly rate, so now that website's up and running, and all we have to do, I always liken it to a rocket. When you first launch a rocket, there's a lot of fuel needed. 99% of the fuel is to launch the rocket. But once it's up in space, you literally just go bing.
Especially with this website.
It shoots for the stars. So that's how we think about these assets. That yes, there's going to be that 40 hours that we put in, that we organize a whole lot of stuff, and we use our brains, we figure it out, and then $26,000 is going to come in over the next year from that website. If you work that out on an hourly basis, and we're not going to look at it again, so that's $650 per hour that we're getting paid on that website. Now,
I think Tim Ferriss talks about that. He uses Tim Ferriss in the 4-Hour Workweek, says the effective hourly rate.
Hourly rate.
Yeah, it's a good way to view it, I guess.
So that's $650 an hour. Now that's like a pretty top lawyer. You imagine a top lawyer.
I look like a lawyer.
No, of course. A lawyer who earns that kind of money. Can you imagine the pressures that they are under? The amount of hours that they need to do, the amount of training that they've needed to do, the networking, the years. They've probably taken 10 or 20 years to get to that level. The amount they paid for training, $100 it'd be six figures plus, definitely 100,000 plus. Now, admittedly, that's to earn $1.3 million a year, if you extend that out. But isn't it nicer to work in your Jimmy Jams at home and in a skill that you can learn? Our students learn within 12 months. So I think what it comes down to is having faith in the curve. We call it Matt's graph in our community. We call it Matt's graph. Yeah. It's the exponential curve, and that's what
Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett says most people can't hack the weight along the bottom. That's Matt's words. Paraphrasing Warren Buffett there. But they just can't do the bit along the bottom, and it is so true that creating passive income often is an initial that work along the bottom where you don't seem to see the results. Use a lot of fuel. Now, what I'm doing with this website, I don't think we'll see the results for another couple of months, but I know they're coming. What I'm doing is I'm improving the site so we don't have to touch it again for the next, hopefully, fingers crossed, the next 3 years.
Yeah. So that's another really interesting point is, when we're talking about millions of dollars, I think most people think, I need millions of dollars to be comfortable to, never worry about money again. But really, when you think about it, you probably don't need $100 million to live an amazing life and be able to do the things that you want to do and support the people and the causes and everything that you want to do and support. So there is that thinking that if you can think about that graph and think about, okay, I want to create passive income because that's going to give me freedom. And maybe the first step is just making my first dollar online or my first $100 a month or my first $1,000 a month. We know when students hit that magic $1,000 a month, that is such a magic turning point. That's where they start to have their curve starting to tick up. And that's where the passive comes in because like we just explained, that's when you have websites that have momentum behind them, they're assets, like a property or a share or whatever, or a business, they have momentum behind them and it only takes little flicks to keep them moving or to send them even further. And as you get further and further up that curve, even less amount of time because your knowledge is worth so much by that point, your experience and your understanding of the marketplace. So again, I think this is also about mastery, about sticking to something and really developing mastery in that area. And certainly in this area, because this is why we are so focused on digital, because we can feel it and I think everyone can feel it intuitively that the way of the future is digital. We are all moving online, we are all moving to a digital way of doing virtually everything in our lives. So if you want to set up, so if you do want to set yourself up for the future and create passive income, then that is why we believe websites are such an incredible vehicle to be able to do that, because we've demonstrated it for the last decade that we can take a website, we can renovate it, and then we can just leave it. And that gives you an incredible amount of power.
So passive income, it does take some work, but just remember, done once, done forever, or done maybe once a year.
And just remember the curve. So get on that curve, and that's the most important thing.